My grandson pushed me into the lake. For 2 full minutes, I fought for my life, gasping, choking, kicking in that freezing water while my arms flailed toward the sunlight. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. And when I finally made it to the surface, coughing and crying, I saw him standing on the dock laughing. "Don't be so dramatic," Ethan said, shaking his head like he was the one embarrassed. He turned around, towel still slung over his shoulder, and walked away like it hadn't happened. Nobody helped me. Nobody even ran to the edge. My son Marcus was too busy grilling. His wife Shara was laying out plastic cutlery like the picnic was a wedding reception. I dragged myself out of that water alone. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. My ankle twisted on the rocks, my knee bleeding. The only person who noticed was the dog, and even she got yanked away by Ethan before she could reach me. Later that day, Shara handed me a dry towel and said, "Next time maybe don't stand so close to the edge." Like I'd tripped, like I hadn't been shoved. Marcus didn't even ask if I was okay. "You'll catch a chill if you stay in that dress," was all he said. That night I sat alone in the guest room, the same room they'd stuffed with baby toys and boxes when I moved in temporarily last fall. My hair was still damp. My arm ached. I stared at the bruise blooming across my thigh and tried to understand when my family stopped seeing me as human. I raised Marcus alone. His father left when he was 8. I worked nights at the hospital and picked up janitor shifts on the weekend to keep us fed. I skipped meals so he could have enough for lunch. I sold my wedding ring to pay his college application fees. I used to hold him when he had night terrors. I used to rub his back and hum until he fell asleep. Now, at 68, I was the invisible woman who kept the fridge stocked and the laundry folded while they scrolled their phones. And Ethan. He used to fall asleep in my lap watching cartoons. Now he could push me into a body of water and laugh about it. When I brought it up to Marcus the next morning, he shrugged. "He's a teenager. They do dumb stuff." "He could have killed me," I said. Marcus didn't flinch. "Come on, Mom. You're being a little dramatic." That word again. Shara backed him up. She said Ethan had a lot on his mind lately. "He's applying to college, dealing with pressure. Maybe don't make this a thing. You know how sensitive he is." I sat there across from the two of them, my tea untouched, my legs still sore from the impact, and realized they didn't believe me, or worse, they did, and they just didn't care. They were waiting for me to get older, slower, weaker. They were already treating me like I was in the way. Shara had been suggesting for months that I look into some kind of community living. She'd even printed out brochures once and left them on my nightstand. Marcus said nothing. He just went along with whatever kept peace in his house. But it's still my house. They all seemed to forget that part. The house we live in now. I paid off the mortgage 15 years ago. The deed's still in my name. They moved in after Marcus lost his job, and Shara's business went under. I let them stay because they had nowhere else to go. I let them fill my kitchen, change my living room, turn my quiet space into their kingdom. I thought I was helping. I didn't realize I was becoming background. That Sunday, I started writing everything down. Not poems, not memories, facts, bank account numbers, the property tax schedule, copies of utility bills, my will, the trust I'd set up quietly after Harold passed. He always said we should have something for emergencies. I kept adding to it over the years. Little deposits, payouts from small stocks, a bit of his pension. No one knew how much I still controlled. They assumed I'd handed over everything when I let them move in. They were wrong. I didn't say anything for a while. I cleaned the kitchen like always. I mowed the lawn. I even bought groceries and added Shara's favorite snacks to the list. I needed them comfortable. I needed them relaxed. Ethan ignored me after the lake incident. Didn't apologize. Didn't even make eye contact. I closed the door and returned to my seat. Later that afternoon, Monica came by to drop off the final estate copy. Notarized, signed, sealed. I made us tea. We sat at the table and went through every document. Marcus and Shara had not responded to the formal disinheritance notice. According to Monica, they had no legal grounds to challenge anything. The trust was locked. The house was secured for liquidation. The funds would go directly to the caregiver program next year. "They're going to be bitter for a long time," Monica said. "That's their burden," I replied. After she left, I opened the small drawer by my nightstand and took out every letter Ethan had written. I reread them. Then I put them in a shoebox, closed it, and labeled it his chapter. I wasn't keeping them to hold on to anger. I was keeping them to remind myself that walking away was the beginning of peace, too. Days later, Tyler came over. He brought fresh tomatoes from the community garden. "I heard Ethan came by," he said, as he chopped lettuce for the salad. "He did," I answered. "You okay?" "I'm better than I've been in years. We ate on the balcony. It was quiet, except for a neighbor's wind chimes." "I'm proud of you," Tyler said. I nodded. "I'm proud of me, too." The next morning, I donated my old family photo albums to the Historical Society, the ones from before things turned sour. I kept one, the picture of Harold holding Marcus in the hospital room. I placed it in a small frame and set it on the shelf near the window. That's where it stayed. The rest of the house stayed light, open, quiet. On Friday, I got a letter from the community center. The caregiver fund had already supported 3 women in need. One used it to escape a toxic family situation. Another used it for medical transport. The third said it helped her feel human again. I read that part twice. Then I made tea and sat in my chair by the window. For the first time in a long time, I didn't wonder what Ethan was doing. I didn't check for messages from Marcus or Shara. I didn't sit in silence waiting to be called back into their orbit. I just breathed. The lake wasn't the end of me. It was the moment I realized I had spent too long staying afloat for people who never once reached back. And now I was no longer gasping. I was standing. That he'd been waking up in the middle of the night hearing water in his ears. That he didn't like the silence between us. That it made him feel small. He ended with, "I didn't know how far gone we were until you left." I folded the letter and placed it with the others. Later that afternoon, Monica called again. She'd submitted the final update to the trust. Everything was now filed, approved, documented. The money is secure. The house is legally out of reach. And your wishes are on record in 6 different locations. "Good," I said. "Then it's time to visit the neighborhood." She hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I need to see it one last time." That Friday, I asked Tyler to drive me to my old block. We didn't get out. We just sat in the car. The front lawn was overgrown. The mailbox was duct-taped shut. The front window curtain had fallen halfway. It looked like a house no one wanted to claim anymore. I asked Tyler to pull away after a minute. "I'm done looking at it," I said. That night, I made a small dinner and opened my notebook again. I wrote down 3 words. They didn't win. The day after Tyler drove me past the old house, I woke up early. I didn't have a plan for the day. I didn't feel rushed. But I felt ready. I hadn't used that word in months. By mid-morning, I had already dusted the baseboards and reorganized the kitchen drawer. I boiled eggs. I ran a load of laundry. Nothing special. Just things that reminded me the space was mine. Around noon, my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole. "Ethan!" He wasn't holding anything. No gifts, no papers, no bags. Just himself. He had on a plain gray sweatshirt and jeans. His hair was messy, and he kept shifting his weight from one foot to the other. I opened the door. He looked up. "Hi." I waited. "I didn't know if you'd answer," he said. "I've been coming by every couple of days, just walking by, hoping I'd see you out front." I said nothing, but I didn't close the door either. He swallowed hard. "I wrote letters. You didn't answer. That's okay. I didn't come here to make you forgive me." Still, I didn't speak. I came because I didn't know what else to do. he said. I feel like everything's broken, and I don't know how to fix any of it. I'm not asking you to fix it, I don't know. I just needed to be near you. For a minute. He stood there, eyes red. I could tell he hadn't slept much. I opened the door wider and stepped aside. 10 minutes, I said. He came in quietly, didn't look around, didn't make comments, just sat on the small stool by the kitchen counter like he used to when he was 10 and waited for the cookies to cool. I sat across from him. I'm sorry, he said again, this time lower. I know, I replied. He looked up. You believe me? I believe you mean it today, I said. What you do tomorrow is on you. He nodded. I leaned forward. You pushed me into a lake, Ethan. You watched me struggle. You laughed. And when I tried to speak up, you looked away. He looked down. I know. No, you don't, I said. You felt it for the first time, when it happened to you. You were scared. You felt alone. That wasn't karma. That wasn't revenge. That was a lesson. He nodded again, slower this time. You don't get to erase what you did, I said. But you do get to decide what kind of man you become next. We sat in silence. Finally, he said, I've been going to therapy. I told them everything. The way we treated you. What I did. How we all acted like you were just furniture. I raised an eyebrow. Mom and Dad are still trying to act like everything can go back to normal. He added, but nothing's normal anymore. No, I said. Because normal was disrespect, disguised as routine. He looked at me again. You're not coming back, are you? No. He took a deep breath. Okay. I stood and walked to the kitchen cabinet, took out a container with 2 slices of banana bread I'd made the night before. I handed it to him. He blinked. For me? It's not an invitation, I said. It's a reminder. That once I gave, and you didn't see it. This time, you do. He took it carefully. Can I visit again? Not yet, I said. You're not ready, and I'm not required. He didn't argue. He stood slowly, nodded, and walked to the door. Right before leaving, he turned. Thank you for letting me sit. I gave a small nod. After he left, I stood at the window and watched him walk down the sidewalk. He didn't look back, just face to face. I leaned against the frame. You have 5 minutes. He nodded. Ethan's still not right. He's scared all the time. I think the lake thing changed something in him. He doesn't laugh much anymore. He doesn't go out. I didn't say anything. Marcus looked at the ground. We made mistakes. I know that. We didn't treat you the way we should have. I let Shara control too much. I thought I was doing what was best for everyone. You thought staying quiet was safer, I said. That I wouldn't push back? He nodded. I thought you'd forgive me eventually. You always did. I looked at him. I forgave you too many times. That's why you thought this would be one more. He unfolded the paper he was holding. I brought the form, he said. The one for transferring the house deed. I was hoping you'd consider signing it to me. I can buy it from you. We'll get an appraisal. You can name the terms. Just don't leave it hanging like this. You still think this is about the house, I said. Marcus, I don't want the house. I want you to understand why you won't get it. He stared at me, jaw tightening. You let your son shove me into a lake, I said. You heard him laugh about it. You told me to stop making a fuss. His eyes started to water. I know. No, you don't, I said. Because if you did, you wouldn't be standing here asking for papers. You'd be standing here asking why your mother stopped looking you in the eye. He didn't respond. Marcus, I continued. This isn't punishment. This is consequence. I raised you with everything I had. I gave you shelter when your job fell apart. I opened my door again when Shara's business went under, and the moment I needed safety, you treated me like a burden. He tried to speak, but I raised my hand. Take the paper and leave, I said. There's nothing left to sign. He blinked hard, shoved the paper into his coat, and turned away. I watched him walk to his car and sit behind the wheel for almost 10 minutes before finally driving off. That evening, I called Monica. I think we're close to the end of this, I told her. She agreed. We finalized the last of the legal filings. The trust account for the Caregiver Initiative had officially received the full funds from the estate shift. Monica added a clause in my will that would ensure Marcus, Shara, and Ethan would be explicitly disinherited. No confusion, no future lawsuits. I made sure the apartment lease had Tyler, my great-nephew, listed as a backup contact. He had been checking in on me once a week since he found out where I moved. We weren't close before, but somehow the fallout had pulled him closer. I always thought Ethan was the golden one, he told me once. Now I'm just glad I'm not like him. I didn't respond to that. I didn't need to. Some truths didn't need confirming. That weekend I went to the grocery store early. I didn't want to run into anyone. As I was leaving the checkout, I turned the corner near the frozen section. And there was Shara. She didn't see me at first. She was standing by a display of cereal boxes, talking on her phone. Her voice was sharp, agitated. I don't care what the utility company said, she snapped. I already sent the payment. This is ridiculous. Everything is getting cut off. Just handle it, Marcus. Then she saw me. Her face changed immediately. She ended the call and walked toward me. Clarice, she said with a forced smile. I gave a polite nod. She looked thinner, paler. Her makeup was half done, and her blouse looked like it had been pulled out of a laundry basket and ironed with her hands. I've been meaning to reach out, she said. We've all been a little off balance. I didn't say anything. She shifted her weight. Ethan's in therapy now. He's really trying. I think it scared him. He writes in a journal. He mentioned you the other day. He misses your banana bread. Still, I said nothing. We know we messed up, she added. We didn't handle things right, but the way you've reacted, it's been hard. I looked at her. I didn't react, I said. I made a choice, a quiet one. She flinched slightly. Then she said, You know, it's not too late to fix things. Yes, I said. That's exactly why I left when I did. While fixing it was still my choice, not yours. She didn't follow me out of the store. The next morning a letter arrived, certified mail, from Ethan. He wrote that he wanted to talk, really talk. Maybe just come visit. I think he wants to see you. No, I said. I think he wants to feel better, and he thinks seeing me might undo something. That's not fair, Marcus said. He's a kid. No, Marcus, I said. He's not a kid. He's 18. That's old enough to know better. Old enough to know what it means to leave someone underwater and walk away laughing. Marcus didn't speak. I could hear him breathing through the line. He asked me to forgive him, I continued. I don't hate him. I don't want revenge. But that boy is your responsibility, and you let him grow up thinking that nothing had consequences. He's traumatized now, Marcus said lower. He has nightmares. He's afraid to shower alone. He keeps asking if he's being punished. Maybe he is, I said. Shara texted me the next morning. He's not sleeping. He won't eat. Please, just come by. Say something. Do something. You're the only one he might actually listen to. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back. He listened to me just fine when I was coughing up lake water. He laughed. I didn't hear from her after that. On Tuesday, a counselor from Ethan's school called. Apparently, Ethan had listed me as a trusted contact in a private online form he filled out the month before. The counselor said Ethan was struggling emotionally, that he talked about water, about guilt, about making mistakes you can't take back. I'm not calling to pressure you, she said gently. "But he's searching for something, and it might be you." I thanked her and ended the call. That night, I sat at my small table and made tea. I looked at the second letter Ethan wrote, the one I had placed in my drawer. I reread the part where he said he just wanted to make people laugh, that he thought I was stronger than I looked, that he didn't understand fear until he felt it. I didn't respond, but I didn't throw it away either. On Thursday, I walked to the community center again. There was a new group forming, daughters and grandmothers raising children without support. I volunteered to help with meal prep. Nothing big, just casseroles and salads. I felt useful again. A woman named Gloria sat beside me during break. She told me her grandson had been suspended for stealing. She said she didn't recognize him anymore. I said, "Sometimes they become the people we tried to protect them from." She nodded slowly. "And sometimes they become the people who hurt us." After we cleaned up, I took the long way home, walking past my old block. I didn't go near the house. I just stood across the street. The porch light was off. The garden was dying. The curtains were closed. I thought about what it must feel like for Marcus and Shara, waking up in a house they thought would become theirs, only to realize it was never going to be, that the papers never changed, that the account names didn't shift, that every assumption they built their comfort on was crumbling. Back at the apartment, I pulled out my yellow notebook. I wrote down one more entry. Ethan now knows what it feels like to sink alone. It's not justice. It's not closure. But it's something. It had been 3 weeks since Ethan's accident at the reservoir. I hadn't seen him. I hadn't responded to any more messages. But the silence between us was full. I could feel it sitting between every phone buzz and every time I opened my door, half expecting a letter to be there. Monica called that Monday morning. "They've been trying to make contact with my office again," she said. Shara left a voicemail asking for clarity on the property structure. Marcus sent another email asking if I could double-check whether the house was still in your name. "It is," I said. "It is," she repeated dry. They just didn't believe it until now. I said nothing for a moment. "Clarice," Monica continued, "you know they're unraveling, right?" I nodded, though she couldn't see me. They spent years building a life on something they assumed would be theirs. And now, it's not. That Thursday, I got a knock on the door. It was Marcus. I hadn't seen him in person since the week I left. He looked older. Not by much, but enough to notice. The stress sat under his eyes and in the way his shoulders curved inward. He wasn't holding flowers or food, just his car keys and a folded piece of paper. "Hi, Mom," he said. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. He hesitated. "I wanted to come by and talk," she said. "Good," I said. She paused, then added, "Are you sure you don't want to tell them?" "I don't need them to understand," I said. "I need them to learn." On Thursday, Shara called. I answered out of curiosity. "Clarice," she said, all soft and sweet. "We'd love to come by and bring dinner. Just sit down and talk. Ethan's feeling really bad. We all are." I leaned against the wall and listened to her lie. "We've had some time to reflect," she said, "and we really value everything you've done for this family." I said, "Who's paying the electric bill this week?" She stuttered. I hung up. That weekend, I went to the community center near my building. They had a small workshop on legal, planning for women over 60. Most of them were like me, ignored, erased, replaced in their own families. We talked for hours. Nobody cried. We didn't need to. We were already past the point of needing validation. We just wanted to know we weren't alone. When I got home that evening, there was a letter under my door, handwritten, no envelope. It read, "Grandma, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I wanted to say, I'm sorry. I didn't think I was hurting you. I just wanted to make people laugh. I know now I messed up. If you don't want to talk to me again, I get it." Ethan, I folded the letter and placed it in the bottom drawer of my nightstand. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't respond either. Some lessons take time to settle. The following week passed quietly. I didn't return any calls. I didn't reply to the second letter Ethan slid under my door. This one was longer. It mentioned the time I stayed up with him during his flu, how I used to slice his apples into spirals. He even wrote that he missed the sound of my slippers on the floor in the morning. But I still didn't write back. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done playing the role they assigned me, the soft woman who always made peace, the backup plan when things went wrong, the invisible support system no one acknowledged until it stopped working. On Thursday morning, I took the bus across town for a dental appointment. It was a small place, nothing fancy, but the staff treated me like a person. I sat in the waiting room beside a woman who reminded me of myself 20 years ago. Same posture, same way of folding her hands. Over her purse. We chatted while we waited. Her name was May. She was raising her granddaughter alone. "You know," she said, "they forget we're still here, just because we don't yell." I nodded. I understood that sentence more than I wanted to. When I got back to the apartment, Monica had left me a voicemail. She had finished submitting the revocation paperwork for the outdated medical forms Marcus tried to access. Apparently, he'd contacted my old primary care clinic, asking for copies of my health directives. He claimed it was urgent family business. The receptionist didn't release anything. Thank God. Monica told them she was handling all legal matters going forward. I thanked her, then made myself a sandwich and turned on the window fan. It was warm that day. Quiet. That peace didn't last long. On Saturday afternoon, I got a call from Mrs. Caldwell, across the hall. "You might want to check the local news," she said. I opened my laptop. There it was. Local teen hospitalized after near drowning at Reservoir Gathering. The photo was blurry, taken from a distance, but it was Ethan. According to the article, a group of seniors had skipped their final class to hang out at the city. Reservoir. One of the kids shoved Ethan into the deeper part of the water. The article didn't name the student, but it said no adults were present. Lifeguards weren't on duty. Ethan had been underwater for almost a full minute. Someone finally pulled him out. Paramedics were called. He was okay, breathing, alert, recovering, but shaken. The report said he'd panicked. The way he thrashed made people think he couldn't swim. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the wall. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel guilty either. I felt still. Later that evening, Marcus called. I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, he called again. I picked up. "Mom," he said quickly. "Ethan had an accident. He nearly drowned. It was serious. We just got back from the ER. I waited. He's okay now," Marcus added. "But he's not doing well. Something changed. He's not talking to anyone." "What do you want from me?" I asked. "I don't know. No." I ended up half-drowned and humiliated. This time I was staying ready. Monica called in the afternoon. She said the transfer paperwork had been processed. The caregiver fund was officially listed in the new will. I asked if she'd delivered the copies to the safe deposit box at Citizens Trust like we discussed. She had now. Even if someone found a way to rummage through my room, they wouldn't find anything they could use against me. No original will, no open account statements, nothing showing Ethan's name anywhere. That part of my life was closed. I didn't hear from Marcus or Shara for 4 days. Then, on Friday night, Marcus called. It went straight to voicemail. I didn't pick up. Saturday morning, he called again. This time I answered. I was sitting at the small kitchen table sipping lukewarm tea and organizing receipts. "Mom," he said, voice tight. "Where are you?" "I'm fine," I said. "Don't worry." "You didn't leave a number. You didn't say anything," Shara thought. "I left a note on the table," I interrupted. "Did you read it?" There was a pause. "Yes, but what's going on? Why would you just vanish like that?" "I didn't vanish," I said. "I left." Another pause. Then, he said, "Is this about that lake thing? Come on." Ethan was joking. No, Marcus, I said calmly. Ethan wasn't joking. He pushed me into a lake and walked away while I choked on dirty water. You called me dramatic, and now you're wondering why I didn't want to stay. He went silent. I could hear something in the background. Probably Shara pacing or whispering to him. I didn't wait for him to respond. I said, You treated me like I was already gone. I just made it official. I hung up. By Monday morning, 3 more missed calls from Marcus and 2 from Shara were sitting in my call log. I didn't answer. I had no interest in hearing their excuses. I had work to do. I started the next phase of my plan, removing their assumptions, one by one. First, I called the bank and cancelled all automatic transfers that had been going toward the joint household bills. That included the energy bill, water, and the pest control subscription Shara insisted was necessary, even though I'd never seen a single roach in that house in 15 years. Let them figure out what happens when free turns into responsible. Then I called the college fund manager, the account for Ethan's tuition, originally set up as a custodial trust in my name, with him as beneficiary, had been emptied 2 weeks earlier into a general fund I now controlled. But the account technically still existed. I had it officially closed and reclassified. That same day, I met with the building manager of my new apartment complex. I signed the final forms to make sure my lease had no co-signers, no emergency contacts on file. I wanted no surprises. That evening, as I was washing the dishes, someone knocked on my door. I dried my hands and looked through the peephole. It was Ethan. He was alone, wearing that same sweatshirt he always wore when he had something to hide. The one with the university logo he hadn't even been accepted to yet. Opened the door but didn't say anything. He stood there holding a small grocery bag in one hand. I brought those ginger cookies you like, he said. I looked at the bag, then back at him. Who told you where I live? He scratched the back of his neck. Dad saw the name of the complex when he checked your mail. I didn't invite him in. I just stepped aside so he could decide. He didn't. He stood there for a second, then held the bag out to me. I didn't mean to push you like that, he said. I mean, I did. But it was supposed to be funny. I didn't think... That's the problem, I said. You didn't think. He looked down at his shoes. Everyone's mad now. Dad's yelling. Mom's crying about bills. I didn't know you were really gonna leave. You didn't know a lot of things, I said. I took the bag and closed the door. The next morning, I got an email from Marcus. It had the subject line, House Questions. I didn't open it right away. When I did, it was exactly what I expected. He was asking about transferring the title, about next steps for peace of mind, about how to make sure your wishes are honored. He didn't mention the caregiver fund, didn't mention the updated will, didn't mention the fact that none of them were in it anymore. I forwarded the email to Monica. She called me 10 minutes later. He's getting nervous. She reviewed the document I had prepared that morning. Full revocation of any medical or financial power of attorney forms Marcus might try to submit. I want everything tightened up, I said. They're getting bold. Monica nodded. I'll have it all updated and notarized by Friday. We talked about the foundation. I told her I wanted to shift part of my estate, the money I'd originally intended for Ethan's college, into a fund for caregivers who support elderly women abandoned by their families. Monica said, It's a good idea. Quiet. Effective. That what you're going for? Yes, I said. No fanfare. Just structure. When I got back home, no one asked where I'd been. Marcus was working from the dining room table, typing loud. Shara was filming herself in the kitchen for some new health shake promotion. Ethan was upstairs yelling into a headset, probably arguing with some stranger over a video game. I went back to my room, shut the door, and kept writing. Thursday came and went without much noise. I baked banana bread. I left half for the family, and brought the other half to my neighbor, Mrs. Caldwell, who was recovering from knee surgery. She asked how things were going in my house. I smiled and said, "They're fine." That night, Shara asked if I could watch Ethan's laundry while she and Marcus ran errands. I said no. She blinked, confused, then tried to laugh it off. "It's just folding. You always say you like folding." I looked at her. "Not anymore." She didn't respond, just walked away, muttering something I couldn't hear. Friday morning, I opened my bank app and moved 3 transfers into a separate high-security savings account I had opened years earlier. One of the accounts Ethan had access to for college savings was now fully emptied. Not because of him, but because I had removed everything before he could get curious. I scheduled a meeting with Monica to finalize the property transfer, contingency forms. If I passed, the house wouldn't go to Marcus. It would go straight into sale proceedings, with all earnings redirected into the caregiver trust. My updated will would reflect this. I still hadn't told them I was leaving. They were too busy arguing about Ethan's senior trip. Shara thought he deserved something big to celebrate the college acceptance. Marcus said they needed to wait for clarity on assets. Nobody asked me what I thought. That weekend I made them breakfast one last time. Biscuits, eggs, sausage. Just like old times. Everyone ate like it was normal. Ethan even smiled once, not at me, at his phone. Shara said thank you but barely looked up. Marcus reminded her again to follow up on the deed stuff. I smiled and cleared my plate. Sunday afternoon, I left the house while they were out shopping for patio furniture. I took 1 suitcase, the lockbox, and a folder of final signed documents. I left my key on the entryway table beside a note that read, "Gone for a while. Don't wait up." I didn't go to my new apartment yet. I went to a hotel on the other side of town, one with quiet hallways and working air conditioning. I sat on the clean bed, turned off my phone, and closed my eyes. For the first time in months, I didn't hear yelling. I didn't hear someone stepping on the stairs like a warning. I didn't smell that awful candle Shara always lit in the kitchen, the one that gave me headaches. It was just silence. I stayed in the hotel for 3 days. Monica called me twice with updates. Everything was set, legal protections in place, deed updated, inheritance accounts locked, Ethan's name removed. The trust for abandoned caregivers had been officially filed. She said, "Ma, they won't see it coming." I said, "Good." Wednesday, I finally moved into the new apartment. It wasn't big, but it was clean. Mine. The bed was firm. The walls were quiet. The neighbors were older. No stairs, no shouting. Just birds in the morning and the sound of grocery carts on the sidewalk. I unpacked my clothes, arranged my tea bags in the cabinet, and laid out my yellow notebook on the table beside a small vase of fresh flowers. That night, I didn't dream of the lake. I didn't feel the cold water around my chest or hear Ethan's laugh in my ears. I slept through the night, and when I woke up, I was still free. The day after I moved into the apartment, I bought myself a proper lockbox. I didn't want to leave anything unsecured again. The last time I trusted people in my home, I started to notice more. How he'd take my charger without asking. How he'd call me old lady under his breath. How Marcus never corrected him. One night I overheard them talking in the hallway. Shara was whispering about moving into a bigger place once everything transfers. Marcus asked if it could wait until after I signed the rest of the stuff. She said, "It's just a matter of time." They thought I was too tired to fight. They thought I was lucky to still be in the house. They didn't know I had already spoken to my lawyer. They didn't know I had copies of every document they assumed was forgotten. They also didn't know I had made a decision not to punish them, not to scream or make scenes, just to leave. I started packing small things into a tote bag. The photo of Harold from our wedding day, my sewing kit, my medicine, a printout of the bank logins. I didn't want a confrontation. I wanted distance. Next morning, I visited a small apartment complex about 10 minutes from our neighborhood. Nothing fancy. Just 1 bedroom, a small balcony, and a front window that caught the afternoon sun. It was available immediately. I paid the deposit in cash and set a move-in date. Then I walked to the nearest post office and changed my mailing address. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. That night, during dinner, Ethan bragged about getting into a local college. Everyone cheered. I smiled politely. He didn't thank me, though the savings bond I opened when he was born is what covered his application fees. He didn't even look my way. Later, while they were all watching TV, I sat on the porch with my tea and wrote a list. Finish account transfers. Remove authorization from shared utilities. Sign updated will close. Ethan's bond account. Notify Marcus of property review. My pen didn't shake. My hands didn't sweat. I just kept writing. They thought the push into the lake was just a joke. They thought I'd forget. They thought I'd accept it. But I didn't forget. And I was just getting started. By the time the weekend ended, the bruise on my leg had turned dark purple and the muscle behind my knee kept locking up when I tried to stand for too long. I didn't complain. I didn't limp around the house looking for sympathy. I'd learned, finally, that none was coming. Instead, I got quieter. I stopped answering every time Shara asked me to grab something from the basement. I stopped reminding Ethan to take his shoes off when he stomped across my rugs. I didn't mention when Marcus used the last of my coffee or left the fridge door open for too long. I just observed Ethan was getting bolder. He'd come in from school, toss his backpack on the couch I bought, and scroll his phone while Shara prepared his plate. No, hello, no, how was your day? He didn't even glance in my direction anymore. On Monday, I saw him looking at new headphones online. Don't you already have some? I asked without thinking. He rolled his eyes. Those are trash. I need something better. Later that night, I noticed one of my envelopes from the desk was missing. When I checked the drawer, 2 of the gift cards I kept for emergencies were gone. I didn't accuse anyone. I just made a note in the back of the yellow notebook I kept under my mattress. Tuesday morning, Marcus mentioned a household insurance review. Said he'd spoken to a financial advisor about transition planning, his exact words, and wanted to go over some end-of-life paperwork with me. I was buttering toast when he said it. My hand didn't even stop moving. You mean my end-of-life paperwork? I asked. He gave a little laugh like we were joking, like we were equals. You know what I mean. We should get ahead of it, so things don't get messy later. I nodded slowly. When do you want to sit down? Maybe this weekend, he said. We can go through everything. Make sure the will reflects what you really want. I told him that sounded fine. Then I made sure to leave the house first thing Wednesday morning, with all the real documents tucked into a locked case in my bag. At my lawyer's office, Monica greeted me like she always did, warm but straight to business. She didn't ask questions about bruises or family trouble, just offered me coffee and opened her laptop. We went through everything, the trust, the bank accounts, the property deed. I confirmed all ownership remained under my name,